Welcome to the Industry Insider, brought to you by PromoCorner. Each week, promotional product professionals Meg Erber, Jeff Franklin, and Stephen McFadden, along with special guests, will discuss industry news, trends, and events with a focus on educating the promotional products industry. The Industry Insider, the nerdy news you need to know.
Welcome to yet another exciting episode of the Industry Insider, your promotional products podcast where you can get all the nerdy news you need to know about. My name is Jeff Franklin, National Accounts Manager with Headwear USA, and I'm joined today by only two other lovely folks. We've got a rose between two thorns today, boys and girls. But listen, this broadcast is being brought to you by none other than PromoShow, okay? Look, it's only August, but now is the perfect time to start looking at ways to show your clients how they can show appreciation. Join PromoShow on Tuesday, August 29th from noon to 4 Eastern to attend the holiday gift themed show. Distributors can register by clicking the holiday gift banner at promoshow.com, and suppliers can reach out to sales at PromoShow if you'd like to get help reserving a booth. There's going to be education, entertainment, giveaways throughout the day, so be sure to check it out on August 29th from noon to 4 p.m. Eastern. Distributors, go to promoshow.com, click on that holiday gift banner to register. Suppliers, email sales at promocorner.com if you're interested in getting a booth. PromoShow, the entire industry virtually. Something's going on with Meg. Not sure what that's all about.
I had something like in my peripheral, like a, I don't know, it's gone now. Glitter, I don't know.
It's just it's a really long eyebrow.
We're doing art projects. We're 12. So no, it's summer, obviously, and I don't know who else has kids and works from home, but it's been tough trying to keep the little one occupied. Normally we're summer camps all year long, but this year we're doing a lot of traveling, so it's tough. So yeah, we have like these workbooks and we're doing art time and then lunch and then play time. It's just, I think the key is to keep a schedule, especially with someone like Addie. And she's been doing, I mean, we're on day 3 of the schedule and it's working really well. Like the behavior issues, because like otherwise if we're like, all right, I don't know how long this is going to go, here's your iPad, or okay, just watch some TV for a few minutes. And then 7 hours later, she's watched 47 episodes of like some thing when they're just screaming, and then I ask her like, hey, let's get off, and then it's and I'm like, I can't. So it's been a little hectic here, but the schedule seems to really be working. She's like, oh, what's next? Day 3, ask me next week.
Kids need structure, man.
Yeah, especially this one. She's my little squirrel. But how are you, Jeff?
I'm doing all right, thanks. Appreciate it. Yeah.
Good.
You know, my wife and kids were gone pretty much all summer, and this is a pre-recorded episode, but they come back next Friday, which would be the 11th. And so by the time you're watching this episode, my background will be full of kids running around and doing the whole thing. So looking forward to that. You know,
I bet.
The longest I've gone without seeing my kids up until this point has been 7 days. This is like going on 2 months now, so it's quite a lot. Yeah.
That's hard.
Yeah. Steven, how are you?
Hey guys. By the time this airs, I will either be on a cruise boat or getting back from a cruise.
Another one.
Oh well, I guess I had the
you had promo cruise before. We got to remember, Meg and I we're stained a little bit by promo FOMO there. So yes, true. I know you've quickly forgotten the promo cruise already, but
I didn't forget. I said it's the promo cruise. But yeah, this will be a Disney one, first Disney one we've ever been on. So I've been on a lot of cruises, never been on a Disney one. So.
Weren't you guys just at Disney though? Like this is like Disney overload this year.
I don't want to hear it. This will be my. So I was also in Disney California this year with customers. So
speaking of, we've decided as a family that we're going to try it one more time, and we're going to do it next November time frame, and I'm going to utilize your. I am because we think we saw 6 things last time on the whole time we were there because it was so bad and my anxiety took over. So yes, I've already established that you're planning our vacation.
Matter of fact, I've got a referral for you. I'll give you off the air and they'll take care of it for you.
Oh, you're so sweet. Thank you. But I want this. I need it all because I'm special.
Okay.
All right. So Steven, why is it just the 3 of us this week?
Oh, because it's going to be fire.
Fire.
Is this fire? Is this a spicy meatball today?
I just want to know. Yeah, I think so. I think it will be. And so for those that don't know, we try to have a dynamic where we can disagree. And a lot of times, more of the recent episodes, we've actually all been kind of on the same page with a lot of things because they're hot topics and they're things that are relevant. But every now and then we need to, mix it up a little bit and revisit some of our old roots and old topics. And today's, Jeff, is...
Today, we're going to be talking about direct selling and whether or not it's a good thing or a bad thing. And is it black and white? And are there gray areas and all that good stuff? So,
right.
Yeah, we didn't want to bring a special guest on to this episode because,
put them in the awkward. Yeah.
We don't want to burn any bridges with anyone, but it's bound to happen with this episode anyways.
It is. And I know we've discussed it once, but it's been over a year since we've even talked about it. And this was brought on because I was perusing the interwebs, and it seems to be a topic that's being brought up more and more in the promotional products professionals page. And it just,
I like how fast he says that. He's like, promotional product professionals.
It's a lot in the picture. And there's conversations that go like this. I just got a call from XYZ customer, and they are getting it for this price, and how are they getting it for this price? And so there's like that aspect of it. And then there's other sides of it where people are like, it's because they buy direct, or it's like, it's because they this person sells to this, or my customer called me and says they work directly with this company. And it just goes on, and people are back and forth. Oh, and then somebody gets tagged. Can you respond to this? Like, do you care to share the information on how this, and so it goes on. And, I think there is some right to be frustrated in certain times. And I think even as a distributor, it's important to understand some of the things that have been put in place long before we've been in business, and some of the channels of selling that exist that we consider direct, that others can consider part of just everyday business that's been going on for years and years and years. So that's why I wanted to bring it back up, and we can just kind of have an open conversation about it. And
we're talking about disintermediation. I love it. Let's do this.
I do. All right.
So let's start with this. Is there forms of direct selling that exist in our industry, from the suppliers to what we as distributors consider our customers? And really, the second part of that question is, are they really our customers, or really an opportunity to be our customers? So let's kind of start there in the surface level.
So the answer is yes, I think. And whether first of all, we're just putting stuff out there, whether we agree with it or not. I don't agree with any of it. I hate direct selling. I think there needs to be that, the chain of command, if you will, or pipeline distribution, where it needs to go from, the manufacturer in China to a supplier in our industry to a distributor, and then, the end user, which really isn't the end user, it's actually the end buyer. User. So, I prefer our pipeline distribution system. I don't like disintermediation. I don't like the Walmart and Amazon effect. But there are certainly some suppliers that are selling to what a lot of distributors would consider an end user. One example of that I've mentioned in the past is to the college bookstore market, or colleges in general. And realistically, this is where it gets gray, and why you can say that it's technically allowed without saying that you're a direct seller, is the fact that they are reselling that product, if it's to a bookstore. So to your point, is that ever really your customer to begin with?
So are you saying the supplier is selling to the bookstore?
Yeah.
Oh.
Yeah. I've gone to CAMX, and this was like 10 years ago. CAMX is the big campus marketing expo, and it's, I think, kind of been taken over by the Tailgate Expo now. But essentially, all these college bookstores and different college buyers would go to the show, and that's where, it's basically our trade show, but for the college market. And you'd be surprised at how many suppliers are, like, in our industry, that are set up at that, that have a booth at that thing.
So we were a supplier to bookstore account for a while, and when we went in there, our approach was basically like, hey, I know you have people that you can get this from directly. Where are the gaps? Like, because I knew that I would just never be able to touch, certain things. And they were like, hey, this is how we mark stuff up. Walk around the place, like flip over the tumbler or whatever. And if you see a price, we're half off. That's what our cost is. If you can beat it, awesome. Maybe we can start there, or we'd find little ways we can sneak in. But they were very direct. And actually, I would say, in some cases, it's not just suppliers; it's your mills.
I was going to go there. That's where I was going to. Yeah.
Look at Legacy Hats. I know S&S carries Legacy Hats. Legacy has a big old booth at Chemex.
Yeah. Every time I go into a customer, and this is part of, and I'm actually glad we're staying in the collegiate market space first, because that's one of the things I wanted to address. It's not just the suppliers; it is our mills, exactly. And that's one of the things I was going to talk about. We've had a guest on our podcast from the collegiate market, and he was talking about their trials and tribulations and everything like that. I was out there visiting those types of customers. So they're in the Penn State market. We'll just use that as an area because we're just talking about it. I don't sell to Penn State. I sell to the customers who sell to Penn State. However, they will go direct to my mills to get a better price or whatever. And that's very frustrating. That is extremely frustrating. It's frustrating from my point of view when they're my biggest competitor, because at the end of the day, the guys from Alpha, the guys from Sanmar, we all sell pretty much the same thing, right? It comes down to relationship. But if I'm in that collegiate market selling to them and selling to my customer all day long, coming up with the ideas, coming up with, like we've talked about that, doing the virtuals and then someone else taking the business. It's very similar. And then you go, all right, well, check out this brand new sweatshirt, or whatever it is, or, oh, I'm just going direct for that. Oh, okay. Well, how about this one? Oh, no, I'm just going direct with that too. All right, well, what do you need me here for then? It's very frustrating. It's extremely frustrating, especially since you've been building that relationship over so many years. And then because the price is better, they're just going to go right to our mill. And I'm not saying by any means it was the guy that was on here, because it wasn't, but just, they were in the same market. So yeah, it's a little frustrating being on the side of it. And I guess it's not just the collegiate end of it. I see it a lot in what we call retail space, I guess, because I don't know if they would be your customer, but there is retail accounts like boardwalk accounts. And then there's some retail that go through the distributor. So I guess it could be a distributor or a supplier account. But then I'm selling to them. I've established this entire relationship over the last 8 years during COVID. And let's say this has happened more since COVID has gone away. So during COVID, when all the supply chains were like pulled in, reined in, the mills were stopped. They stopped selling to the end users. They stopped selling to the distributors because they were not paying the bills on time, or maybe they couldn't pay the bills, or whatever it was. It was the people who had the money, and the people who had the money were the Sanmars, the S&Ss, the Alpha Broders, right? So they were holding in their supply chain, selling to us and letting us sell. Now they have an abundance of inventory. Now they need the cash flow. Now they're going back to those customers. So where I might have been up $100,000 with one customer this year, I went to go get that order, and guess what? The mill already reached out to them and gave them better pricing on the shirts that I could even give to them.
Hey, a little data trivia here related to this.
To break up the angst.
Yeah, two weeks ago on our live, we talked about, or I think maybe a week ago, how big was our industry?
$25.8 billion.
Something like that. Okay. Do you know how much royalty sales were done in collegiate for sports apparel in the sports bookstore area? 31.26 billion. So I can tell you right now, there's obviously some form of direct relationship with some of these places because their entire market is larger than our entire industry.
Yeah.
So,
not only that, but our industry is also reported. There isn't any actual real hard evidence that those are the numbers. That's reported numbers.
Sure. And
our industry is probably larger than that.
Very well could be. But I do think that there's some validity to comparing, that 100%. And the overall royalty bearing sales in global licensing is 315.5 billion. So that's going to include product. That's going to include everything else that goes into it. And that's a 14x of our industry from what was reported. So that's there's obviously going to be some form of direct relationships between mills or factories or something going on in order for them to bring those numbers in. So
I do want to say real quick, Meg, before you jump in,
Yeah.
when I said that I was at Camex, first of all, Headwear does not go direct at all. And I was there actually with a distributor client that was exhibiting at the show. But yeah, it's the college market is definitely one of those ones. Are there any others, Stephen, that we need to discuss? Before?
And a lot of them fall into the retail category. As Meg mentioned, golf pro stores. That's typically one where a lot of your name brand apparel places have direct sales reps for them. So
like Adidas,
Under Armour, I don't want to call it anyone specifically, but Cutter and Bucks, they have a relationship with them. Nike, Under Armour, Adidas. I'm going to forget some, but those are places.
I'm sure Imperial probably does too, if I'm not mistaken.
I'm sure. And most of those places, though, if you ask, it's harder when you work with a multi-line supplier because they don't necessarily have access or know all of the individual relationships of all their mills and all their factories. They can probably go get it if we needed it. But for example, when you do work with someone like Cutter, they'll tell you very upfront, like, here's the minimums we allow you to charge for stuff because we try to keep a fair marketplace. We do sell to book. We do sell to college. So they're very upfront about that. I appreciate that. I think that's good to know because they're telling you if you go out in the wild. Now, I think it would be more like that if we were working directly with Nike or Adidas or Under Armour, but because we buy from Alpha, SNS, Sanmar, where those brands are sold through another company to us, right? We're not getting that direct communication from Nike, Under Armour, Adidas, right? So, where does that fall? I don't know. It may surprise some people when they go in and they've got a buddy who says, yeah, I have all this stuff on the shelf. Oh, you sell that too? Great. Let me, and this is where those conversations pop up. I went in, someone said that they offered this, but then they told me this is how much they were paying and I can't touch it because they're getting it direct. And it's like, is that, I'm going to just use SNS for an example. Is that SNS selling direct? No. Is it Adidas selling direct? Probably. And that's because they've been doing it forever, So it's like trying to understand the dynamics between, is that really direct, or is that just a sales channel that we as distributors don't really have that as a potential customer because they weren't ours to begin with. We're going into their space, if that makes sense.
Yeah, I totally get that. I think it comes down to, a lot of it comes down to relationships. Like I talk about this a ton of times, it's a relationship industry. We have to do relationship selling. But what happens when you have the relationship and it still happens? And that's I think what really starts to bother you. And I will give a perfect example. And again, these thoughts are my own. They're not SNS's, and I hope I don't get fired over all of this. But it's come up a lot. Well, no. I'm not saying names by any means, but I was at an event once and I was taking my customers around and we were talking to one of the mills, and I don't know if the mill realized that I was the SNS rep or not. But they were talking to my customer about all the direct business that they do with said customer's competitor down the street. And I was like, I was so, and I just was like, I don't know what to say here. This is a little awkward. So it definitely tarnished the relationship. I will say that. It definitely tarnished the relationship.
I'm going to challenge one thing on the relationship side.
Okay.
But I've got a buddy who, let's just say, buys a bunch of stuff for their store or whatever. They get it for $10. My cost is $10. It doesn't matter what relationship I have with that guy. Right. I mean, like if he can buy it for what I have to buy it from, we're the same. Like it really doesn't matter if we're blood related. Like he can't just take, quadruple the hit by the time it goes to retail because his $10 a $20 sell. My 10 is his 20 is his 40 retail, so it's a 4X on his cost if he has to do it, without, going direct. So yeah,
I get it.
if it's close, I get it, obviously, but there are some circumstances where, we specifically in the college market, I don't want to hype too much on that because we kind of beat it. There's just stuff we couldn't touch, like they're getting $4 some printed shirts for game day stuff. Okay. All right. I'm great. That's a great deal. Great for the university. All right. Next product. I can't get upset about that stuff because I can't touch it. I want to make sure that you guys have equal opportunity to offend me as well. So
now that you've taken up 21 minutes of the podcast, all right, yeah, we get 9 minutes to beat up the distributors. Let's go, Meg.
It was gonna be a 25-minute episode, so you got about 3 minutes.
I will say, I am a big advocate too of writing with some of my vendors because I have great relationships with them and it helps me learn their brand more. But I think it's all about transparency. A lot of the mills have to grow these accounts, meaning the distributors, through their distribution channels, whether it be Alpha or SNS or Sandmore. So then, I think at that point, if they're just an extension of us and we're being transparent about it and it's known, hey, they're not going to sell direct to those customers. I think that's a really good way to grow the relationship overall, because then I could take I feel like there's something going on here.
Just waiting on his turn to pounce, and we're not giving it to him.
Oh, I thought you said go, Meg. So I thought, hey, I'll just talk some more. I'll
did.
fill
I'm
the
just,
space. Go.
I'm ramping up. I'm getting angsty.
You're getting hyped.
Go. That is all.
Now, before we launch into the distributors going direct as well, I will say when I was a distributor and I worked with BJ at Blue Chip, I remember doing a project for custom bandanas through for Brett Michaels. You guys know who Brett Michaels is, right? So I was working on this project, and it was like 5,000 bandanas or something. I mean, it was a decent order, or 10,000. It was some crazy number. I don't remember, but I was actually working with Carolina Bandanas to do this project, and then next thing I know, Carolina Bandanas ended up going direct to that person because I guess they have like a whole separate side of the business that's not a promotional product supplier, and somehow they ended up getting that order. So yeah.
And I don't want to take up any more of your time, but there is this whole myth that a lot of people like to think is hard law. People can sell and buy from whoever they want to sell and buy from. I mean, it's nice if you have a ASI and PPI license, but there is really nothing like that holds you to that other than court of public opinion. Yes, it works nicely, but if there's agency models, right, and those agencies, some of those buy direct from those, and they don't have ASI and license numbers, but they represent celebrities and things like that, like you're talking about. So all right, sorry, Jeff.
No, good. I just wanted to bring that to light because it definitely does happen, and it's frustrating as a distributor, especially when you are a smaller distributor and you're kind of banking or relying on that for your commissions check that month or whatever it might be. I mean, look, it sucks when it happens. So I know why we're discussing it. 15 years later. But
I think at the end of the day, I think everyone should know that it affects the salespeople, that they're not getting that order, whether it's distributor, supplier, even though maybe couple $100 here or there didn't matter to the person that was moving the business. It definitely mattered to the person that was trying to get the business. Sorry, I didn't mean to cut you off, Jeff, but I wanted to add that. Yeah.
But yeah, it's not just on this end of that pipeline distribution. It's also on the other end of it. There are plenty of distributors that are going direct to, whether it's agents or direct to manufacturers themselves, factories in China or wherever. And it's also doesn't stop there. You've also got end users that are going direct to China and things like that, cutting all of us out of the equation. So it's kind of just a really crappy situation. I like pipeline distribution. I like the fact that there are those people that sort of get to touch each part of it. But, like you said, it's free enterprise and you're free to do whatever you want to do. But, it's always a good practice, in my opinion, not to bite the hand that feeds. And, when you need favors from certain folks and you're doing sort of shady stuff on the back end or what would be considered or deemed shady, you might not get that help. You might not get that favor.
So let me ask, I know we touched on gray areas, and obviously I think we spent a little bit of time talking about supplier gray areas with some of those pre-existing contracts and existing channels and sales markets. I think distributors have a gray area as well too. Like if I go to a show, ASI or PPI show, and I meet someone at that show, I think our assumption is those are suppliers. Like we assume it's a supplier exhibit, right? Everyone I talk and meet with is going to be registered or a supplier.
Yeah.
So, we then go start working with some of them, and you realize that they are registered as suppliers, but to Jeff's point, they are agents. They've got some offices here, maybe in the East or West Coast, right? And they are working directly with the factory. How different is that from working with the overseas department at a multi-line product company that has an office here and works directly with the factory to import me product? It's like, those all seem the same to me. Like personally, I don't see any difference of working with PCNAs worldwide or hits overseas versus, an overseas company that I met that has office here is working with the factory overseas too. So is that different in your opinion, or is it more or less that's less of an issue than me seeking out people directly in China, as opposed to, like, where do you see that as the gray area?
That's a gray area for sure, because at the same time, our mills are there too, so I can totally see how that's a gray area. I will say who does that very well is Sierra Pacific Burnside. They actually just won, I feel like, Family Entrepreneurial Award of the Year, something along that, Family Business of the Week through ASI a couple weeks ago. And Michelle Bell actually called me when they were going through this, and she was like, I just don't see a lot of transactions through ESP. And I said, I'm going to tell you why. I said, they're at every trade show. But they act as an extension of us. They're not going to go then and take that business and then run with it. They're literally selling on behalf of their distributor channels, and then they feed those leads back. And that is a really good partner. So the fact that they won that award, they are really good people just in general. I love them. I love my rep. I love everyone that I've worked with over there. And it speaks volumes that just the things that she said and how it equaled up to the end result. But yeah, so there's definitely ways to do it. But I can see where that confusion would be if they're at a trade show showing all their products. Why wouldn't you be able to sell to them? So I think that is a gray area, and it is up to the mill or the people, to have the right business practices and to pass along the leads that are meant to be passed along. Or, if you're going to get that order, if you are the mill and you're going to get that order regardless, let the SNSs and the Sanmores and the Headwear USAs of the world, let them be your sales rep and be an extension of them. You can still grow the business. You can probably grow it better. Like I think of it that way. Like I reach your end buyers through the distributors. They are an extension of me. I'm an extension of them. I work to help them grow their accounts. I might go on end user calls. I am definitely not calling those guys up afterward and saying, hey, listen, I can definitely get that to you for like 10% cheaper. Because like at the end of the day, A, I don't have the time. B, I don't want that business. C, I value and respect the relationships that I have with my distributor customers. As a matter of fact, I feel like I'm very good friends or family with all of them, So that's my last 2 cents on it, and I'll stop talking.
I was gonna say, Jeff, I feel like you'd have a good opinion on this particular section. What do you think as far as those gray areas?
I mean, I don't think there's anything that you can do about it at this point. Like it's going to happen, and it's just a matter of how quickly the gray areas take over all the black and white areas. I don't know, man.
I mean, that's going to be more specific too. So like Headwear USA, for example, if I want to do an overseas hat project, right, it's not being done here. You're working directly with your factory there. Is that, in your opinion, any different than me working with a group that's here at the show that I met that's showing me products that they can make in their factory overseas?
No, I think if you're working with like an agent or something like that had exhibited at a show, then I think that falls, the onus of that falls on a PPAI or an ASI who allows them to exhibit and where they draw the line of, what qualifies as a supplier versus a manufacturer. Okay. I mean, is an agent the same as a supplier? I mean, because they're not the ones that are directly manufacturing it. They're kind of going to factories themselves. I mean, and they're taking a very small cut of it. They're almost kind of are the same thing to some degree. So I mean, there's, you know, I don't fault anybody for doing that. I don't think that's necessarily on them, because you're right. If you as a distributor go to a trade show and they're exhibiting, you know, then obviously they were able to get in somehow.
Under some, yeah. I think you know when it's wrong when it's wrong. You know, it's like if I had to call around and find myself talking at different times of the day to speak directly with the factory that has no representation or no license or no, you know, ASI or PPI number, it's like, okay, well, clearly you're trying to script the system in that way, as opposed to if you found someone through a search engine or you found someone at a trade show or whatnot. So
I feel like you got to kind of look at those agents similar to like a multi-line rep almost in that sense, because they, you know, perhaps they're just working for multiple factories and they're only selling those particular factories' products, you know, so maybe it is kind of like a direct relationship with a factory, but, you know, they're repping multiple factories and therefore showing different products. And because they're on selling, they're technically a supplier. I mean,
I guess not to get too nuanced, but it's like, all right, well, then what makes something not that? So does it have to have domestic production? You know, do you have to have domestic, a domestic component in order for you not to be considered, you know, direct, but you know what I mean? Like, do you have to have some sort of presence or nexus? Or, you know, it's hard to find like what that specific would be. So
I think it really has to do with if you have a direct channel to get something and then you skip that to get, you know, skip that relationship and skip that, then you're either way.
It's not a direct channel.
No, you're.
But you know you're
channel.
doing something though.
Yeah.
You see what I'm saying though, right? Like if you said if I have a direct channel and then I skip it to go direct, well then it wasn't direct to begin with.
You know what I mean? But yeah, I'm actually, since this is a pre-recorded episode, we're not having the comments jump up on the screen, but I'm really interested, and I'm sure we definitely missed. There's only so much we could fit into this 30-minute thing, but I would love to hear people's opinions. We don't need to rag anybody or trash anybody, but I would love to hear if that something did happen to you guys that you're passionate about. We'd love to hear it. You don't need to. You know, we don't need to kill anybody's name, but yeah, I'd love to hear some stories. Post them in the comments below for sure.
We don't want to turn the comment section into a hate.
Yeah, we don't want that, but
so
we'd really like to share, you know, maybe tips and tricks for maybe being able to avoid it. I don't even know if there is a way, you know.
Yeah, and I think the whole purpose was to share education on it too, because I don't think a lot of people understand that there are
a lot of gray areas.
Are deals done by government agencies, sports industries, direct retail sellers that have contracts and bids and relationships with our suppliers or our suppliers' mills or things that have been going on for decades, right? In some cases, that those customers were never yours. You may have done some small orders at their front doors, but you will never touch that big order in the back. You may in some cases, but chances are when it gets above a certain point, you're going to end up finding yourself directly bidding. And now you're like, oh, they direct sell. You've ruined my life. And it's like, in some cases, yeah, that stinks. Like you worked really hard to get to that bid process and you're finally there and you realize that the door's shut on you, and that's frustrating. But you know, if you dig deep and talk to some of your suppliers and things, you'll understand that there's things out there in our industry that are kind of behind closed doors and spooky and scary, but they exist. But they also exist on our side, you know, where people are direct buying from factories and directly from China and different countries. So obviously we want people to work with the channels that are there. So
yeah. And I think during COVID, there was a higher volume of, I'll call it fraudulent, because it's you know, maybe end users signing up for, it's easier and harder, I guess, to, how do I even say this? So like, you know, through ASI, right? You have to get your ASI membership. But when you're in apparel, you can be a screen printer or a decorator, and you don't necessarily need an ASI membership. So you're signing up for an account. You just have to prove that you're a reseller of decorated goods. It's a lot easier to get past those filters. And it was, but I think since then, across the board, everywhere has been able to like figure that out, track that down, and cut it off. So, like I said, everyone's human. People make mistakes. People rectify them. But I think, you know, at the end of the day, it's the relationship industry. You just gotta lean on those, and sometimes you're not gonna win every order.
Yeah, hey, we didn't kill each other today.
Yeah.
Look, business is business. You know, when you're trying to win, business, and you know you've got to hit a certain number. Like, I don't think anybody can fault anybody, you know, for going out and trying to go win that business, especially if it's, you know, between you doing it and then that person going direct themselves. You know, if you're working with, you know, we'll just say like a Budweiser or something like that. Like if you're doing business with Budweiser, like they go direct as well. So, yeah, it's just it kind of is what it is. Nobody can really fault you. It's kind of gross, but you know, I certainly understand why it's there.
All right, sounds good. Well, thank you, Jeff and Stephen, for being guests on the podcast today. It was a pleasure. And there's Brian. That was 2 words put together.
Wow.
I don't even know which words they were.
Really good, Jeff.
Proud and something else. I don't. All right. Anyway,
you should do this more often, Meg.
Fine broadcast. That was Brian.
Yeah, Brian is fine broadcast. Yes. I love it because you can't give me crap anymore for the tongue twisters and all that, because you know
you didn't say Brian.
You do it when you're not even reading something. No, Meg, that's what you do to a turkey.
Yeah.
All right. Well, look, again, it might only be August, but it's the perfect time to start looking at ways to show your clients how you can show appreciation. Join Promo Show on Tuesday, August 29th from noon to 4 p.m. Eastern to attend the Holiday Gift Theme Show. Distributors can register by clicking on the Holiday Gift banner at promoshow.com, and suppliers can reach out to sales at Promo Show if they need help reserving a booth. There's going to be education, entertainment, and giveaways throughout the day, so be sure to check it out on August 29th from noon to 4 p.m. Eastern. Distributors, go to promoshow.com. Click on the holiday gift banner to register. Suppliers, email sales at promocorner.com. If you're interested in getting a booth, promoshow.com, the entire industry virtually. Look, I still love both of you guys. It's great. You know,
we did it.
We can have these conversations and you know, still be good. I think it's that way. Yeah, there we go. That was perfect. My hand is so much bigger than yours, Meg. Look at this.
I get close. I can't do it. I can't do it.
All right, we need to cut this thing off.
All right, see you guys.
All right, guys. Until next time.
Thank you for listening to this week's episode of Promo Corner's Industry Insider. For more great content from industry thought leaders, including podcasts, blogs, and videos, visit promocorner.com.